Welcome to Salon Talks. I am Mary Elizabeth Williams. It is, without a doubt, one of the most awkward years of your entire life, and it is now the subject of a new film that has been getting justifiable raves all year long. Writer and director Bo Burnham's Eighth Grade was a standout at this year's Sundance. It is now opening across the country. You already know him. He's a pioneering old veteran now of YouTube. He's a stand-up comic. He's an actor, and this is his debut film. Bo, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Mary. I appreciate it.
So I am giving this film my eighth grade stamp of approval because I'm a parent of two teenage girls, including one who just finished eighth grade.
Exciting.
And I have to say, you just got this so on the money. And one of the things that I found really interesting in reading about this film is you based this character and the situations not on your own time as an eighth grader, but really kind of your recent past.
Yeah, I really wanted to talk about, I set out to write something just to reflect how I was feeling at the time, which was nervous and anxious and strange, and everything was changing, and I was confused, and I couldn't find any solid feet under my ground, which was okay, eighth grade. It kind of followed pretty quickly. But I really do believe that the way that time is different than the way we remember it. And it being a girl, I couldn't project my own experience onto it. I had to sort of walk her experiences with her for the first time. Because I was never a 13-year-old girl, and I was also never 13 now, and both of those things, I think, lend themselves to a specific experience that I just wanted to try to service.
And one thing that I think is really important about this film that you have talked about is that it is very aware of the fact that things happen to you when you're 13, that there's not that adolescence or childhood is not a bubble free of drama or experience. Not at all. In fact, exactly the opposite.
Yeah, it's significant. I believe that, yeah, there are things that happen to you when you're 13 that in hindsight aren't significant or as significant as you may have thought they were. But also, when you're 13, you just have access to the human condition. And that's also something you're struggling with. The questions you ask at that age are questions you'll ask for the rest of your life. How do I be myself? How do I be confident? How do I put myself out there? So, yeah, part of it was just trying to dignify a kid's story with the significance of what you would an adult story. I don't love the term coming of age because it makes it feel like, okay, then they come of age and now they're worthy of being an autonomous person in the world. It's I think kids are very deep, and I think they have access to very, very deep things. I think they're more adult than we think they are, and we're more childlike than we think we are.
I think you're right. And of course you have this brilliant cast. You have this amazing girl who is just captivating and very real, and it's not the kind of, not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's not the Disney movie where everybody has perfectly blown out hair and everybody has perfect skin and everybody's house looks like it's well manicured.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was important. I mean, we just wanted to feel the reality of the thing. There's a lovely push for diversity in film that's very needed. There doesn't feel like there's a lot of aesthetic diversity, which is just as needed. So yeah, we just wanted to represent kids as they were, and it wasn't a comment. It wasn't and Elsa the actress was relieved to be able to just be herself without judgment. I think it's much more, people ask was she worried about not covering her skin or doing this thing? And it's it was much more stressful for her to go into auditions and feel like I'm not worthy of being in this movie because of the way I look, which is I just look like a kid, like every kid looks at that age. So yeah.
Yeah, it really reminded me in its look and tone of just what you would get if you were watching a European film, where people look like people and houses look like houses.
Yeah.
Which just seems what a novel idea.
Yeah, right.
Why is that such an unusual thing? Those are the films that won the Palme d'Or because
yeah.
people look like people.
Yeah, we wanted to capture the sort of the rawness of those Scandinavian films without it being and then the boy's head gets chopped off or whatever usually happens in those, the movies that seem to have the correct texture. Some just go get super dark. So we thought can we have that realistic texture and also just portray a regular little American 5 days. And
spoiler, there are no heads are chopped off.
No heads are chopped off
in the making of this film. But that brings me to something. This film has been rated R by the MPAA. This is a film that kids cannot actually go see unaccompanied. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think they'd rate Kids' Lives NC-17 if they could. I mean, the truth is, 8th grade is R-rated because 8th grade is R-rated. That's just the truth of it. I mean, it's a little bit of a bummer, but it didn't feel like our responsibility to try to portray a reality we felt was appropriate for kids, but rather portray the reality that the kids are actually living in. I mean, I can promise parents this movie is not exposing kids to anything they're not very, very aware of. And it's a soft R, I think. So it's a little bit of a bummer, but if it encourages parents or cooler, older siblings or cousins to bring kids, that can be a fun thing, hopefully. But yeah, it was never a question, though. We were just going to be real. I mean, when it came back, there was a rating. We weren't going to cut anything.
Yeah. Yeah, there was no question of, well, if we soften it a little, then we can get more 13-year-olds in.
No, it's strange stuff like just them saying nudes to each other. Like they say the word nudes. Like did you send nudes in 5th grade? Like that, I think qualifies for it, which is like what? So it's like forget it. This is just what it is, and I think if kids will want to see it, they'll seek it out.
Yeah, it's also, I can tell you, it's not hard for 8th graders to get in.
Yeah. Buy a ticket for Ocean's 8 and then just sneak in.
Yeah, and I really love that because of the rating in some way, it's an incentive for parents to see it with their kids. And it's an incentive to have conversations around these aspects of their kids' lives that they may not know about and may not be able to talk with them about.
Right.
And this is a kind of a neutral ground for opening up those conversations.
Yeah, and I think what's nice is I feel like I've seen people leave and the parents feel a little more for their kids, and the kids feel a little more for their parents too. The kids get the perspective a little as well, but yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
Well, that's another challenge that must have really been interesting for you as a filmmaker, because you have at least been 13, maybe not a girl, but you don't know what it's like to be a middle-aged single dad.
Yeah.
And yet the dad's character is so beautifully drawn, is so complex and nuanced and trying so hard.
Yeah.
And I want to know how that came about.
Well, I think it's part of it is like I felt like an old, out-of-touch dude when I was writing this. I felt like a young kid on the internet, and I felt like him. I was 13 years apart from either of them, right in the middle. And so I think it was a way for me to give voice to, even though I'm not a single dad of a girl, I was a single writer, a male writer of a girl that I cared a lot about. And it was a way for me to give voice to my own disconnect. Because as much as I feel like I understand this younger generation, I understand Kayla, I don't. I'm still a dude that's older than her and has no idea what she's going through. But cares about her and wants her to do well.
Yeah, paternal, you brought the paternal aspect of creating the character maybe.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because it's like a lot of my mom in it, you know what I mean? It's like more sort of, the vibe of him is a lot more I drew from sort of my mother. But yeah. Well, we should start to redefine what paternal means too anyway. That'd probably be helpful.
So, Bo, you're 27 and you're clearly very well aware that you are in some ways you really are the elder statesman of certainly of the YouTube generation.
Yeah, Gandalf,
because you're exactly you're the Dumbledore here, because you were doing this when you were 15, which is back in the beginning of the YouTube era, and it has changed, and there is now this new generation coming up that is different, that has been watching their lives, that has been watching all of these other celebrities, these other YouTube stars emerge, and is thinking that's what they want to do, or that's what they can be, which was not something I think you may have been aspiring to when you were 15.
No, I mean, there wasn't even like the model. Like, it was like, I have a funny song I want to show my brother at college. Oh, there's this site called YouTube where you can share videos. It was like, okay, it wasn't even the viral model at that point. But yeah, it was strange. YouTube and the internet in general at that point felt still like a bulletin board where it's like you got something cool, like post it here and just like show it to people. And now it really is like live on this thing, reflect yourself, be here, be present and live. And I think it asks much deeper questions of us than it did then. You know, Instagram and Snapchat are literally, what do you look like? Or Instagram and Twitter are literally, what do you look like, what do you think, what do you look like, what do you think? Those are base, weird questions to be asking of ourselves 3 times a year, let alone 5 times a minute.
Right, all day, every day.
Yeah, it's really deep and like existential. I mean, like, it's like, yeah, it's weird. It's because the forms are so blank. Just like post images. Okay, now post text. Now post image. Nothing, you don't need to do anything but post an image and a piece of text. That's strange, as opposed to, the MySpace model of post your profile picture and list your songs. You know what I mean? It felt much more like you're just filling in like a rubric and it's a fun little thing. And now it's something much more beautiful in a way, but beautiful in the sort of terrifying and beautiful way.
And now 8th graders have no idea what MySpace even was.
Oh my God, MySpace to them is like papyrus or something. It's insane. It's like when I talk about MySpace, it sounds like I'm talking about like buying a hamburger for a nickel. Yeah, man, talking about my milkman or something.
When I used to listen to these stories on the radio.
Yeah, really. It's like, it feels like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, when I talk to my kids about watching TV at a certain time, they're just
Right,
like, what
right.
was that like?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah, I was in middle school calling, I needed to call someone on a landline. Like, my girlfriend, I had to call her parents and ask for her first name.
But what do you think? Yeah, it's completely different. And I, as a parent, am really curious about how it's changing and how it's evolving. And you've talked about that, the prison of always being performing, of always kind of having to be on for your friends and creating this life that exists in another space. And I'm wondering, do you see that changing? Like when you were working with this teenage cast, is that evolving?
I think so. I think maybe it's more deeply ingrained in them to a point that actually is less harmful. I think the internet interface is the weirdest with 30-year-olds that like are just like taking it on late in life and are very strange and have no idea how to behave. And the kids maybe intuit it a little better. I don't know. Yeah, it's much more about sort of the stress for me is the way it forces us to view our own lives in terms of our own narrative. You're not just living your life, you're hovering over yourself, watching yourself live your life. And you're in this experience, but you're also taking, you know, a wider view of what this experience will appear like and being nostalgic in the moment for what this experience will look like, you know, a day from now or an hour from now. It's strange and just disassociative and weird. And I don't know, it's like, you know, Billy Pilgrim unstuck in time or something. It's like, yeah, I don't know, it's Douglas Rushkoff has a wonderful book called Present Shock that talks about the feeling well. But as you can see, it's like very hard for me to talk about or articulate. So like the impulse was like, just do a movie, have the real kids, let them live, portray the subjective truth rather than try to search for some objective truth about what's going on. Because I have no idea. Like when I try to theorize or talk about it, it just like confuses me. So like, let me just state the only thing I'm certain of, which is how it makes me feel. And that's what the movie hopefully is me and a group of other people saying, this is how it makes us feel. What do you think of it?
Yeah, but there are all these little, you're very meticulous in the way that the light looks when you're alone in your room and you're scrolling through pictures.
Yeah.
Like it's very clear that you really spent a lot of time thinking about those details.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it just, yeah, I just think there's a lot of beauty with it, and the act of looking at a phone and browsing on the internet. It's very cinematic. People are very sort of scared of, I think, it seems like phones and screens cinematically. But for me, it's like Barry Lyndon writing a letter by candlelight is the most cinematic thing in the world, but a girl on her phone in the dark isn't. It's like the letter and the candle are now one thing in your hand. It's like, it's a light source. That's nothing more cinematic than that. So, yeah, I value it all. I mean, I see it all as valuable because it's valuable to me, because it's meaningful to me. And I think when we start to see younger people, I'm just sort of the first one that was able to kind of get it, or get enough power to make a film from the generation of people that the internet means something to them. So when we start to see young people who the internet actually means something to them, I think we'll start to see the internet being talked about more subtly. But I think we've only had the internet talked about by older people that actually see it as this other thing that's invaded the culture and not something that they've lived with and something that means something to them. I'm very grateful for it. The internet's wonderful. The internet gives visibility to people that would never be seen. And it set the country on fire. And it's objectified us. And we can express ourselves. And we're numb. And we're stimulated. And we're, you know, connected and incredibly lonely. So, yeah, it's all those things to me.
Yeah, it's all those things simultaneously. And you can't extricate one from the other.
Right, exactly. If you could, it'd be so much easier to address. But it's just a very, and I'm sure big, giant, medium, like, they talk about like when the printing press showed up, you know what I mean, that like it rewired our brains linguistically because we were holding, you know, it was all oral tradition. And then when it was written, like, we just changed. And I think we're just going through a change like that. But it's very, very rapid. You know, it feels like rather than every 400 years, it's happening every 6 months. Like giant social innovations are happening all the time. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, and definitely every couple of years, because I certainly see, as a parent of teenagers, I see the way that my teenagers are looking at people your age and learning from you and learning from the successes and learning from the mistakes and learning from the missteps and the frustrations and how they're shifting their identities around that.
Right. Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah, the gap feels bigger, you know? It feels like it's strange. People 4 years younger than me sometimes feel 20 years younger than me.
And you address that in the film, and I love that. I love that it is a film that is very much framed by these conversations around where was I 4 years ago? Where am I now?
Yeah, exactly.
Where am I going to be in 4 years? And knowing that those versions of yourself are always going to be there with you, that they're going to live in perpetuity with you, just like your 15-year-old self is always there, Bo.
Sure,
right?
Sure, yeah.
So what is that? What is that like? Like, how do you reckon with that? Because I don't have that. 15-year-old me is nowhere on the internet.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's very interesting. I didn't think about it like that. Literally, yes. Forgiveness, truly, like just to forgive. Like part of the movie, I think, is forgiving myself. I made embarrassing things on the internet when I was young, and she's making slightly embarrassing things, less embarrassing than me, but still embarrassing things on the internet. And like, yeah, there's got to be some amnesty that we have to like give to ourselves. And you know, we're going to get to a point where every presidential candidate has like the embarrassing jokes they made when they were 13 on the internet somewhere. But yeah, that's totally right. I never thought about that. It's a great point. That I think, yeah, it has to do with. Yeah, exactly. The sort of the multiple versions of ourselves never gone. That you don't kind of get to be like. Am I going to make another Slaughterhouse 5 reference? Is it Slaughterhouse 5 where it's the Tralfaut-Midorians? What was the one with the creatures that exist in 4 dimensions? So you see themselves, that you see them as a baby. They walk around and you see their babyhood all the way to their like old manhood, you know? And it's similar with that. Like we carry our whole narrative with us now, and I think that's a bummer. That's really tough. You know, you don't get to really reinvent yourself like you used to.
Right, and you have a character who that's very much a thing, where it's like, and these milestones in your life, where you're going into high school or you're going into college, still do feel like this opportunity to reinvent yourself, to kind of burn down your past a little,
exactly.
and yet. You really kind of can't burn it all down. Because
yeah.
it's out there.
And it's in you, and it's with you. And so maybe that's good. Maybe that's good. Yeah, who knows? Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Do you want to just be a little single point traveling along a line, or do you want to be the line? Maybe being the line makes you more forgiving of yourself in the present, but being in the present makes you a little more forgiving of your past. So it's like, it's a balance. I don't know. You know, I don't want this movie to be finger-wagging and, you know, taking a stance on these things. You know, it's like, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't think things are getting worse, necessarily. I think they're getting just, like, more. Just more. They're just getting deeper and more intense.
Yeah, and more polarized. But again, it's like you can't really extricate one from the other. You can't say it's getting worse, or you certainly can't say it's getting better.
Well, yeah, and it's like, yeah, a lot of the things that are happening in the culture feels like, is the culture getting worse? Are we getting worse to each other? Or are we just getting visible? It's like, are we just now paying attention to everybody? And now we're noticing the sort of awful things that we were just not putting light on before. You know, that's the balance of this stuff. That maybe this is just like the flu part of what it takes. We're just fighting, you know, this is just what happens when your body and the cultural body is fighting off something.
Right. At the same moment, though, that we also have Me Too, and we have visibility for all different kinds of groups that you would never see before, that certain representation that you would never see before in the culture. People of color and people of different sexual orientations and gender orientations moving into places of power in the culture and in politics that they've never had before. At this moment that we're also kind of in chaos.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, it makes sense. It just makes sense. That proves that what this medium is just powerful. The good is accelerated and the bad is accelerated. And like the neutral is accelerated. You know, because it feels like we're like more chaotic than we've ever been. We're more accountable than we've ever been. And we're more bored than we've ever been. You know what I mean? It's like everything is just more. And it's just a matter of, you know, what can we do to hopefully skew it towards the good a little bit.
Well, you're certainly a big part of that, and I want to thank you again, because this is a film that has nuance. This is a film that doesn't wag his finger at you, that really just, I think, much like the dad, unconditionally accepts and loves and really embraces the characters. It's such a wonderful film, and I'm so happy for you that you made this, and I'm really excited for parents and their teens, and even their teens sneaking into movies without their parents to go see it. Bo Burnham, thank you so much for joining us. The film, once again, it is called 8th Grade. You've got to go see it.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.